We're continuing to listen in to a summit happening right now out of Jerusalem. This is with the Jewish News Syndicate as they're hosting their annual policy summit. We also wanted to let you know that we are expecting to hear from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a little bit later on. So we're going to keep a very close eye on that. Meantime, as we continue to focus on all of the major coverage, I did want to share this with you right here. This is a live look from Switzerland as Vice President Vance is there right now meeting with top Iranian leaders. And he said earlier that there was an opportunity to turn over a new leaf with Iran as the sides are now launching talks aimed at building out the interim deal to end the war in Iran reached by the two sides last week. So happening right now, Vice President Vance is holding talks with Iran's parliamentary speaker as well as a foreign minister at a resort near Lake Lucerne there in Switzerland. This is a live look outside of where these talks are being held. We were hearing just a short time ago as Vice President Vance was providing some remarks prior to those talks saying that there is real progress being made. This as the U.S. is looking to get Iran locked into negotiations over its nuclear program amid concerns it may be used for military purposes, which is something Iran denies. Vance also wants to push Tehran to commit to keeping open the Strait of Hormuz, which is the critical waterway through which about a fifth of the world trades oil, and that's where it passes. However, one of the sticking points is the on-again, off-again conflict in Lebanon between Israel and the Iranian-backed Hezbollah militants. This continues to threaten to possibly derail the effort for the United States to win concessions from Tehran on its nuclear program and keep the Strait of Hormuz open. So we are continuing to follow the very latest. And for more on this, I do want to bring in Blaise Misztal with JINSA to talk more on all of these developments. And as always, Blaise, we appreciate you joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie, and wishing a happy Father's Day to all the other dads out there.
Absolutely. And I did want to start with this. As we're awaiting to see what comes out of the negotiations happening right now in Switzerland, a large part of this, Blaise, is the role that Pakistan is playing when it comes to those negotiations. In terms of the perspective from Pakistan and perhaps the diplomatic cushion, can you share with us how Pakistan might leverage all of this to help facilitate peace, and also mentioning that the Qatari mediators are currently involved as well?
Yeah, so it's really interesting that Pakistan has evolved or emerged as the main mediator in these discussions. In previous negotiations that have happened with Iran, whether either under President Trump or previously under Presidents Biden and Obama, it's really been Middle Eastern countries, primarily the Qataris and the Omanis, who have served as that role of either hosting or mediating discussions or sending messages back and forth between the two sides. But what happened in this war is that those countries that sort of maintained neutrality or sort of tried to maintain relations with both the U.S. and Iran were attacked by the Iranians. Both the Qataris and the Omanis were subject to missile attacks from Iran. This despite the fact that Qatar, according to reports, actually tried to bribe the Iranians into not attacking it, saying, look, we'll cut off our own natural gas production, just don't hit us. We'll make the United States and the world hurt by denying them energy resources if only you won't attack us. And despite that, Iran attacked them. And so I think that really both soured the Qatari and Omani governments and showed that maybe they don't have that level of influence or neutrality that's needed to be mediators. And so Pakistan has stepped into that role now and done so very clearly with great energy. The head of the military, the prime minister, other Pakistani officials spent a lot of time shuttling back and forth to Tehran to make first the MOU happen and to keep pushing negotiations forward.
Yes, and I also wanted to talk about these negotiations as they are now underway. Can we back up just a little bit to how the United States and Iran has gotten to this point. How, especially with the starting and the stopping of potential talks, we now have the memorandum of understanding. But how did we get to the point where Vice President Vance and other U.S. mediators are there in Switzerland with those from the Middle East, including Iran?
Yeah, well, look, obviously there's a long history here. The United States has been trying to stop Iran's nuclear program one way or another for 25 years now. But obviously the proximate cause here is Operation Epic Fury, which President Trump launched on February 28th. The war lasted with Israel for almost 40 days of pounding the Iranians. On April 8th, President Trump announced a ceasefire and said that he was focused on getting Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for a ceasefire. That didn't happen, and we had sort of a tense 8 weeks or so of the Iranians claiming that they were blockading the Strait of Hormuz, the United States blockading Iran. Meanwhile, negotiations were going on to get at least some sort of a deal that would end the war, reopen the strait. We got that last week in the form of the MOU, which also set up the 60-day period for negotiations to get a further agreement on Iran's nuclear program. I will say we've certainly been here before. Even just a year ago, shortly after coming into office last year, President Trump gave Iran a 60-day deadline to reach an agreement on their nuclear program, and that didn't go anywhere, which is why we had the 12-day war last June, also launched by Israel and the United States. So this is certainly a bit of a deja vu all over again, believing that the Iranians are going to stick to a timeline or negotiate in good faith. The difference now is there has been a major war or two major wars that have pummeled them. But at the same time, we've also given away a lot of the leverage that war created in that MOU that you referenced, Stephanie.
And Blaise, we just got a new social media post from Fox News correspondent Trey Yanks that I wanted to share with our viewers. This is from President Trump saying, referring to the Strait of Hormuz, quote, "You close it and you won't have a country. You won't even make it back to your expletive country. We may take over the strait if we have to," Trump said. "If they don't make a deal, we'll collect tolls." Trump added the U.S. could become the guardian angel of the strait and take 20% of the oil. So, Blaise, we have some very strong language from President Trump as Vice President J.D. Vance is meeting there live in Switzerland with mediators and leaders from the Middle East. As we take a look ahead to the talks happening right now in Switzerland with very strong language such as this, from your estimation, can real progress be made?
Look, President Trump put maximum pressure on Iran in 2018 after withdrawing from President Obama's Iran deal and got nowhere. President Biden tried to negotiate a deal with Iran for 4 years, promising them the world, and got nowhere. President Trump tried to negotiate a deal with Iran last year, got nowhere. We had a war, tried to negotiate again, got nowhere. We've now had another war. Will it actually move Iran to being willing to give up its nuclear program? I don't have a lot of faith. Anyone that disregards President Trump's threats obviously does so at their own peril, and he's proven that he's willing to take the fight to Iran. But on the other hand, we've just had 8 weeks of this tense ceasefire in which President Trump kept demanding that Iran reopen the Strait of Hormuz and did not, and the United States did nothing about it. We've also just signed an MOU that gives Iran quite a lot of concessions in terms of the ability to sell oil, make a lot of money off of that, promises to lift all sanctions on them, promises to come up with $300 billion to invest in rebuilding Iran. If I were the Iranians and I saw all those things, I would say, we have all the leverage here. We're the ones who came out of this war stronger because we control the strait. And therefore, we can do what we please because we found the pressure point. We found the leverage on the U.S., and that's the global energy markets. And so I think the Iranians are probably going to do what they always do, which is drag their feet, kick this 60-day timeline down the road, and try to get away with not making a deal for as long as possible.
Given that and reflecting back on the strategies that we've seen from both sides and the results that have come after that, do you feel that inevitably fighting will resume, particularly if Iran is just trying to kick the can down the road and try and get as much as they can out of all of this?
I do think that the way that we've ended this war, the contents of the MOU that President Trump negotiated last week, all of those mean that at some point there is probably going to be another conflict with Iran. I don't know if that's going to be a conflict between Iran and Israel or also involve the United States. I don't know the timing of that conflict. I do think that we have bought ourselves a significant amount of time before that conflict happens, however. The combination of the 12-day war, Operation Midnight Hammer, which devastated Iranian nuclear facilities, now the 38 days of Operation Epic Fury, which took out large portions of their ability to build missiles and drones and the weapons that they use to sow violence across the Middle East. That has certainly bought time before Iran gets to a point at which they are at the same level of danger and threat that they were just a year ago. But I have no doubt that if this MOU stays in place, if Iran gets the concessions, gets the sanctions relief, gets the oil revenue that the MOU promises, they're going to funnel that money right back into rebuilding their nuclear program, building more missiles, funding more terrorism, and it's going to set off the cycle all over again.
And Blaise, you were talking about terrorism. I also wanted to discuss what's happening there in Beirut, Lebanon, as Israel is continuing to strike Hezbollah. Iran says that that's a line in the sand for them. They do not want Israel to continue fighting and focusing their strikes on Hezbollah. And President Trump has had some strong words for Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. We've seen some strain showing up between the United States and Israel, two very close allies. As we take a look ahead in terms of the relationship, you know, what might all of this mean for the relationship between the United States and Israel?
Well, I think it's important to understand some of the facts on the ground here. The MOU that was negotiated between the United States and Iran tries to implicate Israel by saying that the United States and its allies must cease all military operations, including in Lebanon. So Israel, which is not a party to agreement, is supposedly constrained by the deal. Iran is trying to tie Israel's hands here. And shortly after the MOU was signed, which said that all military operations are supposed to cease, a ceasefire was declared, including in Lebanon. Within the 48 hours after that happened, Hezbollah launched over 100 rockets and missiles at Israel, at Israeli soldiers, killed at least 5 of those Israeli soldiers. And Israel did what it has every right to do, which is fight back. And now Iran is saying that's unacceptable and that's going to lead them to close the strait. I think that's really an unacceptable feature of this MOU. It's forcing Israel, which was not a party, was not part of the negotiations, did not sign the MOU. But Iran is trying to dictate to Israel that it has to stand there, watch its citizens and its soldiers get pummeled by rockets from Hezbollah and can't do anything about it. That should be unacceptable to any country and should be unacceptable to the United States as well, which has been such a close and strong partner with Israel during this fight. And I think will remain aligned with Israel on the goal of making sure that Iran can't get a nuclear weapon, can't continue arming and funding terrorist groups like Hezbollah across the Middle East.
So I have to ask, Blaise, is this the strategy that Iran is currently using, looking to drive a wedge between Israel and the United States with this, what they say is a non-negotiable point?
It's that and much more. It is certainly an attempt to drive a wedge between the United States and Israel, as you said, Stephanie. It's an attempt to have the United States recognize that Iran rightfully wields influence in Lebanon, that Hezbollah is there to stay. It is also an attempt to give themselves the wiggle room to try to push back and sort of continue fighting, whether that's against Israel or the United States, without having the MOU violated. This is something that Iran always does. It always tries to push the limits. If you think back to the nuclear deal that President Obama negotiated, it went into effect in January of 2016. And within 2 weeks of the deal having been signed, or it wasn't signed, but going into effect, Iran had captured U.S. Navy sailors in the Persian Gulf and held them at gunpoint on their knees. It was just daring the United States. Is this something that's going to make you want to pull back from the deal? President Obama did not, and that signaled to Iran that it can keep pushing further and further and take more actions of aggression against the United States. Iran is doing the same thing now. It's testing the waters. How much can it get away with that violates the deal, but because the United States wants the deal so badly, we'll turn a blind eye to it? And that's exactly what Hezbollah gives it the ability to do.
And Blaise, before we let you go, as we continue to take a look at all of the developments happening, including the behind closed doors negotiations happening right now live in Switzerland, is there anything that you are keeping a very close eye on, what you're particularly interested that comes out of this from those public statements that we may be expecting to hear a little bit later on?
Yeah, look, I think the one thing that is going to be critically important in such a deal, and no one has talked about yet, is inspections. It's one thing for Iran to say it's going to limit its nuclear program in the list of different ways that is needed to be sure that it's not working on a nuclear weapon, but it's another thing to believe it that it's actually done that. And unless there are international inspectors on the ground, cameras monitoring 24/7 what Iran is doing, we just can't believe that those restrictions have been put in place. And so far, no one has talked about the role of inspections. No one has said that as part of the negotiations. And the IAEA, the international body that monitors nuclear programs, the one that would be sending those inspectors, hasn't been part of the negotiations. And so in order to believe that we're actually making progress, that this is going in the right direction, I'd really like to see the IAEA get involved and the United States make clear that IAEA involvement is an important part of the nuclear deal that it wants to see Iran accept.
And Blaise, you bring up a really important point right there. As always, we appreciate you joining us here on Live Now from Fox to share your perspective and expertise.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Before we head to break, another live look here from Switzerland, Lake Lucerne. This is where Vice President J.D. Vance is meeting right there with top Iranian officials as they're working to what they hope is a ceasefire there. Right now, a memorandum of understanding, and they are now negotiating with those Pakistani mediators there. So what we're going to do is we are going to just step away for a brief break. We're continuing to monitor all of our live feeds. And as we were sharing with you, there's a summit happening right now in Jerusalem where we are expecting to hear from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We have not yet seen him take to the podium, so we're going to take this opportunity to step away for a break. I'm Stephanie Quinn. We appreciate you watching Live Now from Fox. We'll be right back.